hello my friend, my name's Jonathan Doyle. Welcome to the Daily Message here on YouTube or Rumble. Wherever you're seeing this, you are very welcome. I am pleased you are here. I've got a really good message for you today. Please hit that subscribe button. If you are not a regular subscriber, I am deeply offended and there is a strong chance I will cry myself to sleep tonight simply because you have not hit that subscribe button. You do not want that on your consciousness. Like if you were attacked by a bear today and your life ended, your last breath would be regretting the fact you hadn't subscribed, or maybe thinking about your family. Be one of those two things, but you get the point. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, go and check out the links here. There's the podcast version, and of course there's the coaching link. The coaching link, where you book a time with me and I work with you personally anywhere in the world over Zoom, where we identify the gaps in your life, the things you want to change, and I work with you as a private mindset performance coach to get you moving forward. I love doing that stuff. I love seeing people like you grow and flourish and change. I promised yesterday that today we were going to be talking about patterns. We are going to be talking about the patterns that affect and shape our lives. First, why do we have them? We are shortcut creatures. There is so much complexity in reality itself, so many things we could pay attention to, that we have learned to run patterns and systems that streamline our experience of life itself. Obvious example, morning habits. You brush your teeth, you make a coffee, you do whatever you do because you don't want to relearn that every single day, right? You ever had one of those times where you're driving home from work or something and you just totally forget where you are and you just kind of an autopilot and suddenly you're home? You just drift off because we've got all these shortcuts and patterns that we run to make life more manageable. We have some that are adaptive and we have some that are maladaptive. We have some that don't move us forward. So the negative patterns in our lives. You're walking past the cupboard. Inside the cupboard is something delicious. For my American listeners, it's a big packet of Oreos or something. For everyone else, it's Tim Tams. It's something, right? Wherever you are in the world, there is something delicious in that cupboard. And you walk past the cupboard and everything in you says, what is in that cupboard is not for me. It's a bad cupboard. And as you go past, powerlessness kicks in, a pattern kicks in. You raid the pantry. Next part of the pattern, self-loathing, regret. How did I end up here again? It's because we run patterns, because we have these deep neuronal superhighways that we've learned to deploy. Some of you would know this stuff, but basically the billions of neurons in your brain, the gaps between the neurons at the synaptic ends, electrical charges jump between those two synapses. That's the neurochemical basis of our thoughts. The more we hold particular thoughts, they get covered in what's called a myelin sheath. Myelin is this neurochemical, it's like white, and it wraps around the end of the synapses as we use particular synaptic pathways more, which simply means the more we think about or do particular things over and over again, the neural pathways that operate that space tend to become stronger and stronger and stronger. So these negative patterns, the question is simply, why do we have them? I'll give you two possibilities. You can choose which ones you like. The first one, as I said 2 days ago, is that they serve an evolutionary survival benefit. So in our childhood, let's just say I had an experience where we were with a group of friends who might have been maybe teenagers, early in our teens, and we say or do something that was really stupid. Everyone laughs at us. And right at that point, we make a decision that we're never going to speak out again because we'll get laughed at. Now, we don't really consciously do that, but the experience is very visceral, like it's really powerful experience for us when we're young, so we kind of lock it into our neural pathways. And then we find that at work, 20 years later, we never put forward our own ideas. We don't seem to ever offer any solutions to anything, and we never get promoted. Why? Because we have a pattern that communicating what you think or feel leads to suffering and pain, because we got rejected 20 years ago. And then we run that pattern. You know, I know several people that flat out refuse to drive cars, who just have a fear pattern because of experience they've had, and they literally will not drive a car anywhere because the anxiety is so strong. Now, it's understandable, right, that pattern gets run due to trauma. So the first reason we have patterns is because they were useful at some point. And if we're not conscious, we forget why we first ever used them, and then we just continue to use them. The second possibility is at the metaphysical, spiritual level, is that the cosmos itself, as far as I can tell, is split between light and dark and good and evil. And there is a force in the cosmos, which for me as a Christian is God, that is trying to help us grow and to love more and to do more and to contribute more and to experience more joy, more wonder, more passion, more connection. And there is an anti-force that's doing the exact opposite, that wants us to be restricted, small, fragmented, and broken. So some of our patterns, I think, are part of that constant conflict taking place. Do with that what you will, but it sometimes explains why no matter how hard we try, we seem to be caught up in patterns that are not helpful. So what do? We know why we have them, because they're trying to help us even if they're not helping us. I read a book a few weeks ago where the author talked about this guy he met who videos great white sharks. And they're having this conversation, and the photographer guy says, the crucial thing is that you have to swim towards them. Of course you do, right? It's a no-brainer. What's the first thing you think of when you're in the water with a great white shark? First thing I think of is, how can I get closer? Not, right? But the photographer guy said that what most people do is panic, and they swim away and they look like a big, slow, fat seal, and the shark goes, breakfast. But if you swim towards it, the shark gets confused. What we do with this metaphor is simply to say, when we have an experience of a negative pattern, we want to get out of avoidance, or you want to get out of denial. Because often when we get aware of a negative pattern, or somebody tells us or shows us a negative pattern, we immediately go to denial. It's like with alcoholics, right? It's like if you say to an alcoholic, look, I think you've got a problem with alcohol, they go, no, you do. You're the one with the problem. First thing is denial. I don't have a problem. You've got a problem. You're always picking on me. Yeah, but you drink 2 liters of Jim Beam a day. But that's your fault. You made me do it. See, it's avoidance, denial, or blame, right? Avoidance, denial, blame. But instead of doing avoidance, denial, or blame, what if you swam towards the shark? What if you just went, oh, right, this is a pattern. There's a pattern here. First step is consciousness. You swim towards the shark. And so recently I was doing this in my own life, and I began to notice a pattern in my life. And rather than ignoring it or trying to outwork it or distract myself from it, I actually really got conscious, and I've been journaling a lot. So in today's episode, I'm actually going to share my pattern with you. It's a very big deal for me to do this. Very personal. Hope you appreciate it. But I noticed a pattern where I would drift for a while, work-wise, career-wise. I'd sort of drift. Now, COVID changed a lot of this, impacted a lot of it, but I was aware of the pattern. So I'd kind of just cruise for a while. And all of a sudden I'd go, I've been cruising for too long, and I'd freak out, and I would just take huge amounts of action. I would just like book a ton of guests for the podcast shows. I would take a whole bunch of business action, and I'd feel great for like a day. And then 24 hours later, I would notice that my experience of anxiety and overwhelm would start to escalate. I'd start to feel more and more this creeping anxiety, like, why am I anxious? Why am I so stressed out? Why do I feel overwhelmed? And then the next step was paralysis by analysis. My internal dialogue would start up. Oh, this is too much, and why did I do this? And I would start to second guess everything. And then the next step would be walking everything back. I'd be like trying to undo stuff and go, oh, no, because I'm trying to get back to homeostasis. Now think carefully about this pattern. It's like there's obviously something in me that wants to do more and experience more and contribute more and have, just do. But then there's this collapsing pattern which then pulls me back. Now, if we go back to the why, it would be because at some point in life, I learned that it's better to stay safe. It's better just to keep doing what you've always been doing, because if you keep doing what you've always been doing, it might not be great, but at least you're not going to get killed, or some suffering isn't going to happen. So I kept finding this pattern of like acceleration, freak out, overwhelm, collapse. So the first step was to recognize the pattern. Now you're going to have one too, or you're going to have 5 or 10 or 20 patterns that are not serving you. All right, you know what they are. If I really ask you, you'd stop and you go, oh, yeah, there is that thing where, and then your brain will go, but it's not my fault. They make me do it. Okay, that's a great way of knowing if you've got a maladaptive pattern, because you're instantly trying to find a reason why you don't have it, or someone gave it to you, or it's someone else's fault. And you might be right. Like, I don't want to minimize that, because if somebody's treated you badly and you've had terrible experiences, yes, I understand it, but you still have to move forward, right? Even if all that's true, you still have to find a way forward if you want to move forward. So what do? Here's what helped me. I've seen the new Top Gun Maverick film 5 times. There's a cool scene at the start. It's not really a plot spoiler if you haven't seen it, but Tom Cruise is flying this test aircraft, this supersonic jet aircraft, and he's got to kind of get it up to Mach 10, this crazy speed that plane's never gone to before. And so there's this amazing scene, he's flying it and it's like incredible, and he gets it up and it's 9.9 and suddenly it clicks over to 10 and it's like, yay! But then there's this really cool scene that I totally related to where he starts going, oh, there's this really cool look on his face and he goes, just a little more. And he just pushed it again and got it up further and further, and then more problems happened from that. But it was a really cool scene. Why am I sharing it with you? Because what I learned in my pattern of cruise, action, paralysis, collapse was when I get up to action and the overwhelm and anxiety starts, what I learned is instead of paralysis and collapse, what I've started to do is just a little more. I'd say, come on, Jonathan, just hang in there, a couple more days with this. Just don't undo this yet. Just a little more. Didn't have to like change the world, didn't have to do some massive new thing. I just went just a couple more days. And I found that this process of just shutting down the thinking, the overthinking, and just hanging in there, just holding on tight. Eventually, I kind of got to a new place. And then the overwhelm died down and the worst didn't happen. That's an important part because you have to have a different experience. Please concentrate. I'm going to wrap this up, but this is important. The first step is to notice the pattern. Then is to take different steps. But this crucial part is if you do different things, you have a different experience of the problem, and then eventually your identity shifts. Let's just say you're afraid of surfing, and then someone taught you to surf, and you surfed in small waves. And then you surfed in slightly bigger waves eventually, and then you started surfing massive waves. In each of those iterations and each of those growth points, you pay attention, you did something that you didn't think you could do. And the doing of something you didn't think you could do changed what? This is really important. It changed your identity. You went from being a non-surfer to a beginner surfer, to a competent surfer, to an extreme surfer. By doing things you didn't think you could do, by critiquing the narrative, noticing the pattern, pushing through each time, and each time the experience then led to more confidence that you could do it again and again and again. So that's the process. All right, so let's wrap this up. Please get awake and conscious and notice your maladaptive patterns. Pay attention to them. Write them down in great detail. The only reason I could share mine with you today is because I've actually paid a lot of attention to it in my journal. Pay attention to it, become aware of it. Notice the component parts, the parts. You do this, then you do this, then you do this, and then this happens. Notice the critical junction point of change. And then push through that point. Just get through that point. Do something different. Hang in there a bit longer. Ask for more help. Get a friend to support you. Whatever it needs to do to break the cycle. And the breaking of the cycle, the doing of different things changes your identity, and then you're solid. My friend, you are solid after that. And then you know what you do? Rinse and repeat. Another pattern will show up. So you could be, I got this favorite speaker who once said that the thing about success is what you get is a different quality of problem. Like if you are dirt poor and everything's terrible, your problem is getting food stamps and getting enough food to eat. If you've created an incredible multi-billion-dollar organization that serves millions of people around the world, then you're just going to get a different quality of problem. Both of you, from the bottom of the social ladder to the top of the financial social ladder, you're both going to have patterns. You're just going to have a different quality of pattern and a different point of breakthrough. We're all on this human journey, all right? But honestly, I don't want to go too long here, but I think what many of us are doing is just checking out, is just sitting on the couch of life and distracting ourselves and just thinking this is how life is, or blaming others for it and not growing. And I want you to grow. That's the point of these messages. I want growth for all of us. All right, that is it for today. If you liked this, if it was helpful, share it with people, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and right now, never leave the scene of a decision without taking action. Go and book a coaching call. Do it right now. You and I, anywhere in the world, it will be awesome. You will love it. Book yourself a coaching call with me. That's it for today. My name's Jonathan Doyle. This has been the Daily Message, and you and I are going to talk again tomorrow.